Hello.
Hello.
We're the co-creators of the webcomic Eben07.
I'm Bethel.
I'm Eben Burgoon, and together we are been making this comic for about
Almost 4 years.
Almost 4 years, yeah. It's the premise of Eben07 is that around the world there's secret agents blowing things up all the time. Who's cleaning up the mess? There's these covert custodians that have been tasked with cleaning up the problems left by James Bond and the like.
Exactly. Secret agent janitors. We started modestly in 2007. Over the years, last 3 years, we got started publishing our own books. We got picked up by an independent publisher out in New York named Comics, and yeah, we're a self-sufficient webcomic now, pretty much.
And today we're gonna do our best to help bring some tips and feedback to try to get you guys how to make webcomics and learn some tips on how to use ComicPress specifically to release your comic content on the web.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
A lot of print people were looking down at webcomics because, you know, they don't have to go through an editorial process. You don't have to be picked up by a publisher. You're not necessarily even getting paid, right? But the validity of them are becoming more and more apparent, where industry professionals are getting sick of the studio process, and they're starting to make their own webcomics, doing their own thing. Big names are like Doug TeNapel. He isn't important for two nerds like us. He created Earthworm Jim, if you guys remember that. But he also has a gig where he with Image, where he basically puts out a graphic novel a year, and they don't put it into issues first. It's just straight up collections. Writers like Warren Ellis, I think that's his name. He has a very successful webcomic called Freak Angels, but he's also a big name writer in the print world. Carl Kerschel's a big artist for Marvel and DC. I think the highest profile thing he's done, he did an Assassin's Creed comic a couple months ago, and he did that Teen Titans, and he was also in that Wednesday Comics thing that DC did. But he's got a very successful webcomic called The Abominable Charles Christopher about a Sasquatch. It's a great comic, yeah, and it only updates once a week. Yeah. But he's probably making as much doing that as he is doing his regular work. So it's really it's coming into its own as a field, and it's being recognized finally for its quality. But
how many people have heard of AXCOP? Has anybody heard of AXCOP? Yeah. So AXCOP started out as a webcomic. It went crazy viral on the web. Basically, the whole thing is this really talented artist has a 5-year-old brother, and he's illustrating all the wacky ideas that come out of the kid's head. And now it's published by Dark Horse. So we're seeing a lot of webcomics actually getting picked up by print publications too. Dr. McDingy, I know, got picked up by Dark Horse as well, and a lot of them. The neat thing about ComicPress is that if you're not a coder, it's basically just a WordPress blog with a theme on top of it. And if you have no idea what that means, I can explain that. It's basically a blog, and it's all the coding that's telling it like your comic goes here and this goes here is all done for you. You don't have to do any of that, and it keeps its own archive. So you just upload a comic and it fits into the archive and updates all the page automatically. So it's really, really, really a simple tool. The first thing you need is a domain name. Go to a place like GoDaddy. Most places that sell web hosting will sell you a domain name, and usually it's about $10. And then to go with that, you need hosting. There are places that sell free hosting. They're less robust, and usually, if let's say you put something on the web that gets 1 million hits in that first couple weeks, that could crash on a free host. Whereas if you get a paid host that has somewhat of infinite bandwidth, you're to buy hosting from GoDaddy. They're usually, if you link your domain name to the hosting plan, and then they have like a one-click WordPress install. All you do is say, I want this web page, this domain name to use WordPress, and it will just, there it is. Once you get installed, and you have WordPress installed, then you need to install the theme on top of that. And there's a little search thing. I can show you where that is.
That's really important. That's the most important point about WordPress is that you have to have WordPress in order to use ComicPress. You can't just download ComicPress and use it on its own. It's just like you said. It's a theme. It's an add-on to WordPress. So those are two things that are important.
Our comic, like I said, like Doug Knappel is updating his really good webcomic 5 days a week. That's full page, full color. He has a colorist, but even still, that's pretty incredible. And we have no idea what his buffer is or anything like that, but he's flying. So in response to that kind of general like pushing that envelope, we decided to go with the seasons approach. So what we really try to do is when we're gonna go build a buffer in the off season, and then when when we're on season, it's a little more relaxed, but we have that buffer, and we can kind of engage our audience more while we're releasing the comic, and we're going to do it 2 days a week. So we usually try to build up a buffer for like a couple months, and then we're releasing comics for like 3 months.
If you do update only 1 week, 1 day a week, we don't discourage it. It worked well for us, but you have to make sure that your updates, and this is really important when writing a comic. If you're writing it to be a webcomic, make sure your update has enough content to sort of satisfy your reader for that week. So we are a humor-based action adventure comic, right? We tried every page had to tell a part of the story, so it might have actually more going on than a normal comic book page would. But it always had kind of like a joke in there too, and it always just was full. And that's one of the things that I struggled with when I did our first book. Reading it as a book was a completely different experience, and I was almost disappointed at first. Like it reads wrong now. But so we've adjusted our writing, but that's always going to be a struggle. Keeping in mind that you are doing a web comic is really important, and keeping your readers in mind, knowing your audience, knowing what works on the internet and what doesn't.
Well, hi, I wanted to someday publish some of my work on the web just to get it out there, not necessarily to make a whole bunch of money on it. And I came here to this seminar, and it was very informative and educational, and it gave me a good starting place to start from, so I enjoyed it very much.
It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot.
And you got a lot out of it?
I did. Thank you for hosting the seminar.
How'd that go, Dan?
I think it went very well, actually. Everybody's really involved, and they seem to get a lot out of it, even though I was afraid we were going to be bumbling and mumbling through the whole thing. Especially you.
I do tend to bumble and mumble.
But what did you think of the event?
I really liked it, and I hope that we can do it again. It seemed like everybody got a lot of use out of it, and I'm looking forward to another.
Well, what's most important is that we learn more about ourselves.
Yeah, as people and as creators.
Sweet. Then give me the name of your comic and your website.
Eben07, Eben07, Eben07.com.